Hey everybody, how's it going? Hope you're having a lovely day. So in today's episode of I Am Happy to Live in Williamson County and not Travis County, we have this piece of news over here. According to a press release from the Austin Police Department, they responded to 4 different street takeover incidents on Saturday night. During these takeovers, Austin police said that the crowd threw rocks and bottles and lasers were pointed at officers. So you could see over here in this interesting Twitter video, you had a bunch of people doing donuts in the street in an area where, people would like to be able to drive through and get home and go to work and things like that, which is obviously inconvenient for a number of reasons. The police eventually showed up to do something about it, at which point it looks like people were pushing back the police car over here. You could see this right after this little news clip. Okay, a bunch of people look like they're running the police car down, and at one point it looks like they shot a firework or a firecracker at it or put a firecracker on the police car, which again is just not exactly a very nice thing to do and not something that in my opinion leads to what's the word I'm looking here? Productive and peaceful community. A bunch of people were also saying that when they called into 911, they were having problems being connected to the police because of staffing issues at a 911 call center. Now, I have lived in a dystopian city for 32 years of my life, and for those 32 years, for everything that I rant and rave about New York City for, you call 911, you get connected immediately, they get you to the police show up immediately. Just regardless of where you are, they almost always show up immediately. Whether I have been in Bed-Stuy, Midtown Manhattan, Washington Heights, pretty much anywhere that I've ever seen somebody call 911, police show up quickly, and when you call 911, you actually get somebody. So this idea that in a city that has a budget surplus the size of Austin's, that you could have any sort of issue where you call 911 and you're waiting on hold or not immediately getting to somebody is absolutely insane to me. Crazy. Again, I've never actually had to call 911 where I live in Williamson County. I have seen somebody else had to call 911 before, and they got to somebody immediately. Which again, many people have said, what's the point of moving all across the country to wind up living in a place that's a mini New York City? I don't live in Austin. I live 30 miles up from Austin. It's a very fast drive in if I want to enjoy the city experience, and it's a very short drive back if I want to get out of the crazy. One of the things that the police seem to have pointed out here, Austin policymakers are directly responsible for the overall safety of their citizens and visitors. Looks like they've failed to make the right decisions and continue to defund, destroy, and demoralize public safety. Austin was one of the safest cities, not anymore. Half true, half not true. It really depends on how you look at it. So there's a bunch of different numbers that you actually got to look at here to try to make sense of it. So when you look at the Austin Police Department budget, it did seem to be trending up the entire time, and then after the summer of 2020 went down radically. However, 1 year after this, the budget was then increased to more money than they have ever had before. So right now, the police in Austin have literally a record high budget. However, they also have a record high budget right after one of the lowest pieces of funding over the past 10 years in a city with a growing population. So there's a number of things that can explain this. Could it be that this record high budget doesn't matter as much because last year they had a record low budget? Could it be that they are simply quiet quitting, as they would call it, in r/anti-work after 2020 and having their budget slashed? So even though you gave me my budget back, I'm still quiet quitting because of this, so we don't necessarily really care to respond to things fast anymore. As you could see when they give the timestamps in the article I'll leave down below, we're talking about 25 to 40 minutes for police to show up and actually do something, which is massively slower than anything I've ever experienced in New York. The other thing to understand with the budget here is this also has to do with how many people you have. In Austin, you have about 10% the population of New York City, but you have about 5% of police officers. However, those 5% of police, so you have about half as many police in Austin as you do in New York per capita. However, the budget here is set up in a way where the police in Austin have something like, again, you have about 8% the budget of New York City, but like 5% the cops of New York City. So each cop in Austin technically has more money allotted to them than what you get in New York City. But you also have a really low number of cops per the amount of people in the city. They have a record high budget, but last year they had a record low budget. So you have this weird situation where it's very easy for the city council to say, you have more money than ever, you should do something. And for the police to say, you defunded us, screw you. And for the city council to say, we gave you your funding back, screw you. So everybody here can kind of point fingers back and forth at each other, and it's very difficult to figure out who exactly is to blame for things being exactly the way they are? Is the budget that was taken away from them in 2020 so consequential that even if their budget was given back to them in spades 1 year later, that it doesn't even matter because of the damage that was done? Is the budget not the issue at all, but rather the morale of the department as a result of the quiet quitting that I imagine would have occurred after the budget cut? Is there some genuine, just normal bureaucratic incompetence that leads to this particular type of outcome? Again, this is not something unique to last night. I talked about this in a video just a few weeks ago where the police take an hour to show up in Austin, yet they will literally show up within 4 or 5 minutes of calling if you live in Round Rock. One thing I can say is, regardless of who is to blame for this, I'm happy I live in Williamson County and not Travis. I'll leave it at that. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Again, many of you have asked, hey, why aren't you going over the things that are screwed up about where you live and work now? Because I haven't lived here long enough to see it. But been here for 6 months, and I'm confident that I'm going to see a lot more of it as time goes on. And I'll be happy to make fun and poke fun of it as it presents itself. Because again, I lived in New York City for 32 years. For all the dystopian shit in that city, all the screwed up shit, all the messed up bureaucracy, you call 911 and you get somebody that wants to help and solve your problem and forward you to fire, ambulance, or police immediately. Not like when this video over here said that there were problems at a 911 call center with people getting through. I've never heard of that in my life, I'll be honest with you. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. That's it for today, and as always, I hope you learned something. I'll see you all in the next video. Bye now.